morning. Follow Tony Fernandes, and it's like, yeah, it's a bad gig to get, isn't it? Yeah. I was actually quite struck. I loved his presentation, in as much as my first job was also at Virgin. So I spent my first 7 years. I come from Scotland, a tiny little place in the middle of nowhere, and my first job was in London at this crazy, crazy company, and I qualified as an accountant with them. So I stayed 7 years with Richard, 7 long years, and I qualified as perhaps the worst accountant that the world has ever seen. I was truly, truly dreadful. I genuinely didn't care if the balance sheet balanced, or, as Tony was saying, I had the disease. Then I made the worst mistake of my life, and I left Virgin, and I moved into investment banking. And if I thought I was a bad accountant, I was an unbelievably bad investment banker. Within 3 days, the bank wanted to get rid of me. They should have. Sadly, the clients loved me. I then set up my own. I sold that to a Wall Street bank, and I retired. And I discovered what was wrong with me in terms of being a dreadful, dreadful entrepreneur, a dreadful, dreadful accountant, dreadful, dreadful investment banker, was that sadly I was an entrepreneur. And we made another big mistake in as much as I researched the marketplace. Lots of people came to me and asked me to invest into their startup, not knowing that I was Scottish, and Scottish people are very tight with money. They'll never invest their own money into anybody else's. I then met a whole bunch of people. One of the businesses I thought was awesome, and so I set about trying to find other people's money for this business. And in so doing, I met a lot of people who pretended that they had money. I met people who pretended they knew people who had money. I met people who pretended that they could help me write my business plan in a better way, that they could get me investment ready, a whole world of pretense. It took me 6.5 months, many millions of baht I wasted in trying to get there, and I walked away with nothing. And I thought to myself, I'm an accountant and investment banker, and I'm Scottish, and I'm getting ripped off. What is it like for people out there in startup world who want to minimize the amount of time they spend with dull people like me, and you just want to get on and run your business? I'm totally pumped. I spent all day yesterday at the exhibition, and I think there's something amazing happening here in Thailand. There's a real passion in the room. There's incredible energy. I loved so many of the startups. What I'm here this morning to do is to do a couple of things. One is to tell you about Business Angels, really what they are and where they're coming from. We're Europe's largest platform. We're across 10 countries. We just opened up in Mexico, right across the Middle East. Large businesses in Germany, but we have 14,000 high net worths. Let me explain what they do and what they don't do. So a business angel, for anyone who doesn't understand what they're about, is somebody who will invest into a business in return for an equity stake in that business. So our average deal is $307,000 for an 18% stake into the business. So if you've seen Shark Tank and you think that's true, it's not. It's not the real world. People don't have to be nasty. Have you seen Dragon's Den? Anybody seen Dragon's Den? That's even nastier. Horrible, horrible people. Most of these business angels are male. He is 54 years old. He spent 28.5 years doing something pretty boring. He's going to be a lawyer, an accountant. He's going to be an investment banker somewhere along the line. And he's looking for a whole bunch of motivations. But the important thing, as far as you guys are concerned, is that he has certain skills that he's bringing to bear in the territory. Why are they vital for Thailand? They're vital for Thailand in as much as this is often, after friends and family, this is going to be the first money that's poured into the business. We'll cover this in more detail, and I hope I've got graphs as well, so you don't have to listen to my strange accent. I've got pictures. VCs, we're going to hear from some VCs later on in the day. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to try and tell you what these guys are. There are people much more eloquently qualified. But where do they fit into the ecosystem? Angels need VCs, in as much as in the olden days, when VCs made lots of money, they would buy the angels' stake off them. That is how angels would exit from the business. So they're a vital part of the ecosystem, and they are coming into the company at a slightly later stage as well. They're coming in at a later stage, and they're adding different skills from that of the angel, and the angels are adding different skills from that of friends and family. We'll cover this in more detail. Oh, look, it's a picture. I hope it's kind of self-explanatory. The beautiful thing about that, and the reason this is a pretty traditional sort of picture, is that it's got bootstrapping down the bottom. And I think because I am an investment banker and an accountant, I think if you can get away with not getting funding on board, and you can bootstrap as long as you possibly can, do it. Totally do it. Don't give away equity just because you think that you should. Give away equity when you need to and when you actually understand what it is that you are getting on board in terms of the business. Often entrepreneurs come to us and they will give us equity just for existing. Entrepreneurs are often very stupid at the start and don't value their own businesses. So you give away the equity far too easily. This is the most valuable thing that you've got. You can see what angels fit in. So they're coming in at a slightly higher level than bootstrapping. They're going to come in. It says seed. I'm thinking slightly later on there. Then the VCs come in. There's some overlap. That's what I'm talking about. The VCs are taking out the angels. I'm not too sure. Is this plain? Do I need to go into more detail on this? We can see where angels are positioned. Anybody? Yep. Good. And then later on, there's like private equity and mezzanine and things I don't even understand. But I can try and explain it to you later if you'd like me to. 100 business plans a day. We super curate those. We might take one of them. We saw 2 weeks ago we had 186 business plans in one day. We took none of them, not one of them. But we'll chat about that later on as well. The point being is that 100% of the businesses who come to us ask us for the money. Because we're an angel network, perhaps that's not unreasonable. But the whole point being that is completely and utterly the wrong thing. So many of the businesses I've met out there, and luckily so many of the advisors I've met out there, understand what they're doing wrong. What do businesses really need in the vast majority? Young entrepreneurs think that they need money. You don't need money. What you really need is mentoring. What you really need is business contacts. What you really need is business experience. Then you need the money. The money is a commodity. There is no shortage of money. Our Hong Kong office alone could keep the whole world in terms of demand and supply. There is more money than you need. It's not about the money. If you think it's about the money, you need to get a job in a bank and go. You're in the wrong seminar. If you just think it's about getting the money on board, you don't understand. Why is this important? I think it's kind of it's not obvious. It's not obvious because, well, I'm telling you it's not obvious because 99% of people who come to us ask us for the wrong thing. 99% of people just want the money on board. But be very careful what you wish for. Be very careful. Because often if you just get the money, something dreadful will happen to you. We'll talk about that. The whole point of angels is that they are rich individuals, but they're rich individuals who come with an added bonus. If you just want the money, then that's fantastic. Go to a bank. Go to a bank, they'll get you the money. Or go crowdfunding, you can get the money there. But if you understand and you accept that actually what you really need is mentoring and business contacts and business experience, and you can see the value in those three things, then angels are the only place to come. I thought I was going to dance there. Don't make me dance. Not again. Not after last night. Angels, to a huge extent, are there to give their advice. These are experienced business people, but guess what? It took us 22 months to figure out that just because you're rich doesn't necessarily mean you know how to value a business. Just because you're rich doesn't necessarily mean you know what a dragon tag clause on a shareholders agreement or what an IP agreement, what an innovation agreement should look like, what the discount rate on a convertible loan note should be, just because you're rich. And so we ran in London last Friday a training program for some of the biggest guys in Merrill Lynch. They didn't know that stuff, but the reason that they're going to make amazing, amazing angels is that they had the humility to admit that they didn't know these things. And just because you're rich, angels are coming on board with that. The motivations of VCs is very different. The motivations of business angels is also very different. As entrepreneurs, as startups, it is your duty to find out what the difference between these two is and to understand, even through my strange accent, the point of the different types of money that there are out there. We're going to go into these in more detail. Apart from the amount. Angels are going to come in with less money because they've got less money. They've got less money because it's their own money and they're all quite tight. They're not going to give you more money than they need. Sorry, they're not going to give you more money than you need. Probably the first one as well. This, for me, is like a huge distinction. There is nothing more motivating for me than actually putting my own money into specific deals. Playing with other people's money, OPM, is, as I remember from my investment banking days, so much easier. You're not emotionally attached to the money. It actually genuinely does. It does matter, but it doesn't matter that much. VCs, of course, have to make money. If they're not making money, they won't raise more funds for their next rounds. So it's important to them. But there is, I think, especially in ASEAN, I think you'll understand what I mean when you say that you will understand, a few nodding heads there, actually investing your own money doesn't half concentrate your mind. You've been going 14 months, you've maybe been going 15 months. If an angel or a VC or anybody who's looking to invest into your business asks that question. You are faced with someone who is going to lose most of their money. Who's looking to raise money in this room? Cool. If you could tell me what your cash flow is going to be in 3 weeks' time, I would be mighty impressed. Mighty impressed. 3 weeks' time. 3 years' time? 3 years' time. These people do not understand the game, which is why we train the angels. Why should they understand the game? They've looked at an American model where Americans are over interested in looking at the numbers. The numbers make sense when you're sort of 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line. You can extrapolate in terms of really where you're coming from. But you're 14 months old, you have no idea what your cash flow is going to be. No idea. If you think you do know, you're deluded and you need to get a job in a bank. You have no idea. And that's fine. So we have 400 angels a day looking at our site. They look at 6 things on the whole. We measure it to the microsecond in terms of what word they hover over the most. All of which I can talk to you about over there when we escape. The one thing they don't look at, experienced business people barely look at the numbers because they know you have no idea. They don't even bother looking at it. Thus, the due diligence that an angel does is going to be very different from the due diligence that a VC does. VCs are obsessed with numbers. They want to look at your numbers. They want to absolutely check everything, perhaps as a product of the fact that they're investing more money, but yeah, I don't know. VCs are very useful when you have proven your business model on the whole. When your business model is there and all you need is cash. All you need is cash. That's when you need VCs. Whilst you are building your business, your technical development isn't up to scope yet, your early market isn't there yet, you're not too sure exactly where your market is or how you're going to penetrate your market, that is the time when angels are incredibly valuable. VCs are coming in at a very different level. I've met some VCs in town who are playing in the angel marketplace. And it is as if it is a hippopotamus trying to be a giraffe. VCs cannot be angels. Angels cannot be VCs. Understand this. Understand this, or you will hurt very, very badly. This is crucial. If you think that all money is just the same, bank money, incredibly valuable, but often it's a later stage when you have a balance sheet that allows you to repay the loan. VCs are coming in when you have proven your business model to the fullest extent. Angels are there to help. I'm going to fall off the stage, aren't I? It's going to happen. It keeps you awake. I'm an attention deficit entrepreneur. Documentation is just so incredibly dull. So dull. Unbelievably dull. But if you are going to play in this marketplace, you have to understand those terms and another 100 terms behind them. You have to understand what rights you're giving away, what rights you've actually got in the first place, what a shareholders agreement is, what it's not, what the law in different countries is that allows you to do that. Because guess what? The angels understand that, and the VCs certainly understand that. And their documentation will be very skewed towards watching how their investment is guarded. If you don't understand that, you will end the way that a lot of entrepreneurs do in terms of getting screwed by the person who's putting the money in. It's not in the best interest of an angel to do so because he's so intensively tied up with you. He's putting a much larger proportion of his, normally, a much larger proportion of his own personal wealth into the deal rather than a VC. He's not going to be involved in 200 deals, 300 deals. He's going to be involved in 4, maybe 5, maybe. Preemption waivers. So we've got 2 lawyers on full-time staff and a barrister, which is like a really high lawyer on full-time staff, to cope with the 10 jurisdictions that we do. We're coming to Thailand. That's the incredibly bad news for you guys. The good news is that where we set up, we bring our documentation with us. So America's largest law firm has provided us with documentation. We've done over 700 deals with this documentation. It is pretty well tied up. Is it overly fair to the entrepreneur? No. Is it overly fair to the angel? No. Does it get the job done? Yes. And that's what you want. It protects both sides. It ensures that everybody understands what it's all about. We've kind of covered that. Why do we train the angels? Well, you know what? I mean, often, I don't know many people that do train business angels. And the assumption is because they've got the money, they've got the power. Because they've got the money, they've got the knowledge. And we saw so many times where that wasn't the case. And indeed, there's no reason why they should understand all of these points. There is absolutely no point. But often, rather than admit that they didn't know something, they would just decide not to invest. For 4.5 years, 100% of the funding that we did was with white male angels. Not one woman invested for 4.5 years. We've been going 9 years. We tried everything. We're really passionate. Most of my company is run by incredibly competent women, obviously, not me. We tried patronizing women by giving them girly things to invest in. We tried different pitching events. That didn't work. We tried everything we possibly could, and we gave up. We just gave up. And around that time, we started training angels. And then guess what happened? Women angels flooded the training sessions and then started to invest because women are so much more sensible than men. And what women needed was the full facts behind them. Women are much better investors than men. They take slower time to actually make their minds up. I'm generalizing, huh? But if I could have a woman investor on board or a male investor, I'd take the woman any time. Women are so much more thorough. Guys just go, you look like a nice guy, I'm going to invest in you. That's about the due diligence. It's going to be a coffee and tell me what you've done and tell me your mistakes. Women will go, do you own the IP in your business? Prove it. Do you own any taxes? Prove it. Show me your accounts. Show me everything. Bang, bang, bang. Like an airline pilot. It is going to be like an airline pilot. They checklist absolutely everything. And then on the other side, women are 2.2 times more likely to get funded at Angelsden because of the way we pitch. But I'm going off a minute. We can talk about that later as well. I'm also talking Saturday. I genuinely have no idea what today is. What day is it? Right, tomorrow. Wow. We see 100 business plans a day. The ones that are easiest for us to reject are the ones that go, hi, I'm 27 years old. I know everything there is to know about business. Just give me the money. We go, really? Seriously? You know everything there is to know about business. I know everything. Shut up. Just give me the money. Those are easy for us to reject. In the UK, we reject them onto crowdfunding platforms where something interesting happens. They get funded. They get all the money they want. We're 4.5 years ahead of you in the UK in terms of crowdfunding. And let me tell you of the experience there. It's bad, equity crowdfunding. There is easy access to capital. Really bad companies are getting funded at ridiculous valuations. Do you think that's winning as an entrepreneur? It could be. Hey, look, I've mugged these guys for, look, I've got a valuation of 2 or 3 times what my business is really worth. That's cool, isn't it? No, that's a really bad thing, because you will pay for that later on. What happens to the business and the company that knows everything already is that they get the money and they go out of business in 14 months. They go out of business because they didn't understand that what they genuinely needed was mentorship, contacts, and business experience, and then the money. If you just give a 27-year-old the money, as they do in Singapore, you'll end up with much the same that happens in Singapore. A very large number of businesses get the money, which is great, and they go away for 14 months, and then they die. This took us 26 months to figure out. 26 months to figure out why angels invest. We assumed that angels were investing to make money. Not an unreasonable assumption, but wrong. We then asked 26 months in, because we were not getting the traction that we thought we should, we asked them something devilishly clever. We asked the 2,100 angels that there were at the time, why are you investing? Making money came in at number 3. Number 2, giving something back, altruism, helping younger people not make the mistakes that they're doing, because so many of them are male. Ego, I've invested in that down there. See that? That's mine. That's really quite exciting. A whole bunch of other weird little factors like that. But by far and away, the biggest reason that these people are looking to invest, they're investing between 8 and 9% of their total wealth with us. 92% of their wealth is in stocks, bonds, private wealth managers, property, gold, cars, wine. That's the stuff that makes them their money. Angel investing, by far and away the biggest reason, bigger than 2 and 3 combined, is this is what gets them out of bed in the morning. For 28.5 years, they've been chasing money. Then they wake up and they realize that money is not the answer to all of their problems. In fact, some of the most miserable people I've ever met have been the richest people I've ever met. 2 billionaires last week in my hometown of London killed themselves. Billionaires. It doesn't surprise me. The average age our angels die, 55. Not 56, not 54. They make the money in the late 40s. It then takes them 6 years to realize they're incredibly unhappy, and I then have to do something about it, or they all die of exactly the same thing. They have a broken heart. Their hearts die because they realize that that is not enough. Their wives are strangers. The kids are complete strangers. There's so much golf you can play. Your friends haven't got the vacation time to actually hang out with you anymore. That's what angels are looking to invest. What does that mean for you? That then you begin to understand why they're not particularly interested in you. I'm going to make 100 times money on my deal. No, you're not. If you think you are, you're stupid. That immediately tells me you're stupid. But I'm kind of interested. I'm not a philanthropist. I'm not giving my money away. But the reasons that they're looking to invest are very, very different. You will not impress them with your numbers. You will impress them with your passion. You will impress them with how far you have managed to get on a very low budget. You will impress them with your knowledge of the marketplace, and not by saying things like, I have no competitors. I have no out. Get out. You have to understand your marketplace. You have to understand exactly what your place in the marketplace is. And then you have to look at what angels are looking for. I've talked to some very rich people here in Thailand in my 2 days. Do you know what? They're going, actually, no one's mentioned that before, but I kind of get that. I do get that. I've met some wealth managers. They're going, yep, we see that. We totally understand that from that perspective. So we don't compete with private banks. We don't compete with banks. They're our friends. We're looking at 8-9% of the total portfolio. They're looking at something completely and utterly different. But angels are looking for that spark in your eyes. If angels are looking at your 3-year forecast balance sheet and they're looking at your 100 times return, they will lose 80% of their money. They don't understand the game. They will have been American educated. Nothing wrong with an American education, but an American education leads you down the portfolio approach. I'm going to invest in 10 companies, 8 of which are going to go under, 1 of them is going to do okay, and 1 of them is going to go absolutely fantastic. Do you know what? It works in America. I haven't seen it work in many other places. No, I haven't seen it work anywhere else. Canada, they laugh in the face of that. Thailand, when we set up, that's not good enough. Another way of putting that is that you're going to get you funded. Funding is easy. Getting the money on board is the easy bit. Genuinely, guys. But do 80% of you want to go out of business because somebody's running a portfolio approach? Or would you rather have somebody who actually wants to invest into your business on the understanding that it's a very large sum of money for them personally and that they actually get it? Lots of websites I've seen here say everyone knows that 80% of startups fail. Does it have to be like that? Why are we talking to 16 governments right here, right now? Why are we in 10 countries across the world? What is it that we do differently? We don't do anything differently, we just do it. I suppose we do it differently. We super curate the deals. As I say, we take on 1% of those that come to us a day, and then we're putting in educated people who understand. These are intelligent people in the first place. We then train them exhaustively. We've trained 2,700 people thus far across the world to add value to businesses. In our 9 years, 94% of all the businesses that we have invested in are still growing. 94%. Thailand's got a choice. It's got a choice between understanding the difference between clever money and money. And it's a big call. I mean, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? This is not groundbreaking, guys, but to a huge extent, it is for the 16 governments that we're talking about. They're all moving into equity crowdfunding because that's the really sexy place to be. Everybody wants to be in that, but be very careful what you wish for. If you think the answer to all your problems is 1,000 investors putting in $100, then great. But as Tony Fernandes said much more eloquently than I ever could, you have to make your own mistakes and make mistakes. And in my humble opinion, taking money from 1,000 people who can't remember that they've invested in 2 days' time, who are not able or willing to give you the mentorship that you truly need, or if you don't think that you need mentoring, great. That's really cool. Once again, as I say, it makes your choice really, really simple. Just take any money. Take as much money as you possibly can at whatever valuation, but I am pretty confident that you will be out of business, and that doesn't serve the ecosystem of Thailand. I would like to thank you for your time. I will be out there when the next break. I hope I haven't upset you and your Thai sensitivities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bill Morrow, CEO Angelsden. Thank you for driving your passion to us. The choice is you, everyone. The choice is on your hand to make the world changing. In the business, you are the one. Alright, so now